Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides. Season 5, Episode 5, The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch review is here now. And how do you like the flag that somebody sent me? They know I'm an American, and they know that I'm into Bigfoot. So, thanks for that. So, Season 5, Episode 5, Back at the Ranch. Now, before I get into this, I actually had an epiphany after I watched this episode. When Mr. Bigelow was at the ranch, and when the previous rancher was at the ranch, they have livestock on the ranch. I've noticed the last several episodes, there's no livestock at the ranch anymore. If there is, I don't see it. And I know that under Bigelow's reign, they had a lot. And a lot of strange stuff happened to the livestock. By not having the livestock there, livestock react to things that humans don't. Animals do. I'm not sure why they aren't having them on site. I wish they did. Here's a theory for you. I was laying in bed the other day, and I woke up with this. It's like someone gave it to me, so thank you up there. If it was you, Ben, I appreciate it. Whatever the entity is that they're studying at the ranch, it's brilliant. Let's put it that way. They're playing chess, and I think sometimes, and this is not demeaning the crew there at all, but we're kind of playing tiddlywinks. We're trying to catch up to what they're doing. We're trying to poke the bear at the best. So what if this entity, I've said this before, but what if they are studying us? And they are directing our research and keeping the research away from areas they don't want this crew to go to. I'm just bringing that up. And the example being, there's some reason that there's no livestock on that land anymore. I don't understand the reason. I wish I did. But if these anomalous things happened more frequently at the ranch when the livestock was there, then it's a mistake not to have it there. Now, Travis and the crew, being physicists, aren't experts with cattle, livestock, goats, dogs. But there were many things that happened at the ranch that centered around the animals. It was almost as though it was used as a shock effect on whoever the people were that were on site. Does this entity have the ability to put an idea in someone's mind and say, go for it? I don't know. Does it have the ability to put something in some of the researchers' mind to say, stay away from it? I don't know. Let's start off with Huck's outside. Let's see if she wants to come in. Huck is my dog. Hey, come on. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Oh, she's coming in. Huck is a Great Pyrenees and is one of the smartest dogs I've ever been around. And the last couple of days we've been spending time hiking in the forest and things. She's a brilliant dog. And this is what I was telling you about having an animal on site, because she senses things when we're in the woods that I don't. And sometimes we're walking along and she'll just stop and stare. And trust me, I pay attention to what she's doing. I think that sometimes these researchers either don't appreciate or don't understand the benefit of having an animal like Huck on site. But for what it's worth, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. These guys are way smarter than I am. So I think I'll just move on. And Huck's going to hang with us right here. Thank you for being here, girl. So they had a drill on site, remember, from last week. And everyone started, or 3 people had this metallic taste in their mouth. They closed it down. Turns out that the entire drill team left. Not sure why, but they did. Took the drill with them. And some of you said that at a 0.5 volt, which was the measurement coming off that drill that Travis had last week, that nobody would be able to feel it. A couple of people commented like that. But Travis said this week that there shouldn't have been an electrical current because there was no path for it to take. So what they were going to do is they were going to put a new GPS sensor on top of the drill and data track it underground through the Mesa. That was the hope with the new drill on site. And last year, they tracked with LiDAR a tunnel that goes into the Mesa, and they wanted to see if it matched up with other things that they were going to do this week. They put a high-speed video on top of the drill, and they said that some of you had questions about this, and I'm glad they said it. They said it took 200 frames per second. That was the speed. And they got several objects moving across the sky, and it was faster than a plane. And these objects were going essentially the same direction at different speeds while the drill was going down. So the drillers came back, they're drilling. The question that everyone had is, how is the drill going in the ground related to these UFOs that are flying by? It's $1 million question. I have no idea. They brought in a man that they've used before, Jan. He had an advanced LiDAR unit that was going to scan the triangle. And what he was going to do is he was going to walk a path with this LiDAR device. 12 different lines across the Mesa where they had previously found this dome device underneath. And he would walk these almost like a grid pattern, except they're just straight lines, and see what came up down below with his LiDAR. Now back at Homestead 1, the managers of the ranch, this husband and wife, had invited over a couple of people that lived in the area in the valley. And they were talking to him about their life in the valley. And they said that this couple said that their grandfather had a ranch and was the victim of some mutilated livestock. And one was a cow. And they explained that when their grandfather went out there, that there was no tongue, ears were cut off, there were cuts around the jaw, but no blood. There was no blood in the animal. And they said the strangest thing was, right next to the cow, on a stump, was a liver, the cow's liver, just sitting there. Now you're talking to somebody, and many of you don't know this. I've read 300 livestock mutilation reports. Many coming from Bigelow's team, because I was given them. And reports from other individuals and other vets that have done the work. I've never heard, ever, of an organ being placed next to a body. That's a first. Then these ranch people asked this couple if they were ever told to stay away from this land that they're studying. And they said, not until Bigelow arrived. And as they're having this discussion, this was pretty funny. All of a sudden the camera crew swipes around, and flying low in the sky along the perimeter of the ranch is a military C-17 cargo plane. Huge! Goes flying by. Too low to be normal. But that couple, to me, just because I know so much about cattle mutilations, I enjoyed hearing from them about this liver story, but they didn't really have much more to offer, but very nice people. Then they went back to the conference room, and they were getting a debrief from Jan, who had walked those paths through the Mesa where this dome device was. So they said, he explained he did 12 passes in the same area where they had done last year. They said that they had picked up a metallic object 300 feet long. And they said that they picked it up and they were able to put it in a 3D look. Jan said his best guess is it's metallic, it's not natural, and this is what it looks like. Kind of what it looks like is an oval, irregularly shaped, like it was all broken apart, but it was one piece. And then surrounding it were other pieces of the same thing. And Travis, he nailed it. He says it looks like a debris field. Took the words right out of my mouth. It looked like the primary instrument or the primary object buried itself in the ground and simultaneously broke apart, and these fragmented pieces were around. And the main body of it was that 300-foot piece that they had picked up every time they crossed it with the LiDAR. And they said it was in a regular shape, extending across the scans. He said, I've done this a lot, I just can't see it being a natural phenomenon. Okay, I like that. Travis stated it could be multiple things. He said it could be metallic. And he said, I think we ought to be drilling there to see what we can pull out. And then I thought this was absolutely unbelievably great. Travis brought his daughter. And she's a sophomore in college. University of Alabama. Engineering student. And Travis asked her to build a special sensor device that could detect GPS, barometric pressure, humidity, and a couple other items. And they were going to attach it to a drone and fly it over the same field they've been flying all this time and see if they could pick up anything different. And Travis's daughter explained what it did. She lost me in like 15 seconds. What would you expect from Travis except an absolutely brilliant daughter? And I think it was one of the highlights of the show. I like it when family comes in and especially adds significance to the show. Thanks, Travis, for bringing her on. And they attached Travis's daughter's sensor, her name was Carlista, to a LiDAR drone. And they flew it on this path up the East Canyon. And they always fly it up the same path. And in the same area, always they lose a connection. And then they're going to fly it back. So they fly it back. land it, and they say, hey, we're going to go back and we're going to talk about this. In the meantime, they put the drill team that came back over the triangle now, right in the middle of the triangle. And it was the consensus, hey, screw it. We're going to drill as hard as we can down in and see what we can find. So they drill, and at about 30 feet, 40 feet, they hit something extremely hard. And what they have to do is they have to back up and hit this thing 100 times to try to break through it. And what they were going to do is get a core sample. And I thought, every once in a while they'd come up and they'd check it, and I thought it was odd, just because it's the ranch, that they didn't have a radiation meter right there checking every time just for the safety of the crew. Now, maybe they did, but I didn't see it, and they never talked about it. Now, as they're drilling, Travis goes back to what he does best, shooting rockets. And shot a rocket, and sure enough, things start happening. There's a big flash in the sky off to the side right after the rocket goes off. And they still got these high-speed cameras going, remember that. And then there's a UFO up high in the sky near where the rocket went. And then this pulsing bright light, like pulsed bright, and then they didn't see anything. But they thought they would catch it on that high-speed camera. Then they jump back to the drillers again. Drillers at 35 feet say they hit bedrock. They never hit bedrock at the other drill site 200 feet away, which is very odd. So they said, we're going to pull up a core sample now, 35/36 feet. They pull it up, they put it on the table, they open the device. There's nothing inside. There's like stunned silence by the 6-8 guys that are standing around, including Travis. He looks, he goes, oh, how could that be? Nobody says anything for a while. And then one of the drillers says, well, maybe because we had to hit it so many times that it broke apart, and when we went down, we hit nothing. Plausible. The next morning, Jim Royston is the operator of the drone with Carlistus Sensor. And they're in the briefing room, and he's talking about how flies the drone up, keeps it at the same elevation, flies it out to that point in the eastern area, turns it around, and flies it back. Well, the GPS data on that drone shows it going up, doing a loop, going straight, coming back, dropping down. It didn't fly that path. It dropped suddenly, and it dropped suddenly at the same area of the anomaly that it's had other problems with other drones in that same area. And then Eric says, hey guys, I got some interesting stuff to show you. Remember when we shot the rocket? That flash in the sky? So I've seen a lot of UFO, UAP photos over my years. One of the best they caught. It kind of had a green hue to it. To me, it looked like a perfectly round metallic ball. I've seen UFOs like this before. And that's what this was. And it would pulse bright and then go away. Pulse bright, then go away. did that 5 or 6 times, and then they didn't see it anymore. But then there was a second object, almost straight up in the sky. This one was off, kind of at the horizon level. This one was straight up in the sky. This one looked a lot different. I tried to think about how I would explain this to you. Imagine kind of a round ball, but then you took and you pasted a bunch of random pieces of earth onto that ball, and it's sitting there. Looked very odd. But it did things that UFOs do. Now, you may think these guys are doing things that don't lead anywhere. I understand where they're going. And it maybe seems like a waste. I've had a lot of comments from you saying, well, these rocket shoots are stupid. Except every time they shoot a rocket, they get some activity. Now you may say, well, so what? Every time they pick up one of these UFOs in the sky, distance, altitude, speed. Now, Dave, why are you talking about speed? When Bigelow owned the property, one of the main goals, the biggest goal, was to, in fact, they said this in their, very early in their research, it was to study propulsion systems on what they were looking at. Because the systems that we look at on this show, supposedly, the US doesn't have that. It's not rocket propulsion. We don't know really what's moving these things around. Well, Eric says, near the end of the show, what we're going to do with this is this is going to broaden our research. Travis says, we got to keep poking the bear with hard science. And some of you have said, well, this really isn't hard science, and we never really see any data. Baloney. Many of you have said, well, Dave, this is really our own government that owns all this technology and owns the ranch, and they're just going nowhere with the study. I have to contradict you on that. Let me give you a little background. Travis works for a company when he's not at the ranch that is probably one of the world's cutting edge research groups in the world. And it has all kinds of super famous physicists and scientists working for it, like Travis. I don't think Travis would be wasting his time, regardless of the money, to study something that this group would know if the U.S. owned that technology, because they're contractors for the U.S. many times. They would know. I don't believe it. Now, the dome device in the ground. I've stated this before. I'm going to keep saying it. A domed device. The late, great Bruce Maccabee said it's an antenna under the ground. And that's what keeps attracting these UFOs and UAPs. Nobody has proven Bruce wrong on that theory. But how did it get there? And what's its purpose? Is for people who don't understand flight, at every airport within a couple miles of the runway on approach, the airport has like a transmission device that planes hone into in bad weather, and they hone into it, and at a certain angle they know that they can land. What if this device in the ground is just something 100 or 1,000 times more complicated, and they buried it under the ground so nobody would know that they're coming? I don't know. I'm thinking outside the box. And it wasn't my thoughts, it was Bruce's thoughts. God rest his soul. Now, where do we go from here? That's a good question. What I did notice right away is Travis's daughter was there during the day, and then, boom, gone. Now, Travis has stated before, he's had things happen to him at night in his trailer when he's sleeping. This is true. Now, maybe Carlista didn't want anything following her home, didn't want hitchhikers, so she did her thing during the day and then got out of there. I don't know. If I ever see Travis, that's what I'd ask him. Hey, did your daughter spend the night with you in the trailer? No? Why not? I'd ask. And then, I like it when you bring brilliant people to the property, and his daughter is brilliant. There's no doubt about it. And they've, just in the last couple weeks, they've kind of gotten stalemated, and they're using the same scientists over and over and over. I have no problem with that. But I do think it leads to a staleness on the property and maybe a lack of new innovative approaches. For me, I think the ranch offers a lot. But my number one request, if anyone's listening, nobody cares about. I'm a nobody. My number one request, they bring animals back to the property. Livestock, cows, goats, dogs, cats. And I don't mean sacrificial lambs, far from it. But I think all of you that have had animals in the past know that they react in ways that people don't. Now, a couple weeks ago, they were walking up the creek on the property. Something I would have done is I would have put a dog, one of the ranch's dogs, on one of those kayaks and brought him with me. Because those dogs have a sense of smell, other senses that we don't pick up. Maybe they would sense danger where others don't. And you could teach dogs to smell for anything. Dogs at the border smell for drugs, narcotics. You can actually make them, dogs, teach them to smell for fruit, all kinds of things. So, a dog, 4 or 5 cows, 6, 7 cows maybe. I don't know. I'd probably pull 8 cows out there. A couple of goats. And a couple of horses. Wouldn't be very expensive. And in fact, you could allow local ranchers to use your field to graze on. Why not? And then have each animal go through a full health check before they arrive and after they leave, and see if there's anything different in their blood, in their urine. I think it'd be worthwhile. And then lastly, I would say it would be enlightening to do a full health screening on each person that went to the ranch. Thomas, Eric, Travis, and the rest of the gang. A full health check. And at the end of every year, another full health check. And see if anything's changed drastically. And as you get older, things change. But have they changed drastically? Is there an unusual amount of an element in your blood or urine that wasn't there a year ago? I'm just saying. And I think it would impart a level of safety for each one of the people at the ranch. I appreciate you being here and watching and listening. And again, I greatly admire the team that's at the ranch. And because you're still here, Hoo-yah. Here we go. My big surprise. Phenomecon. Vernal Utah. This summer. Phenomecon. Now, why am I telling you about that? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Phenomecon, September 4th through 7th, Vernal, Utah. I want you guys to know about this. And why? I've been invited to hundreds of conferences. Hundreds. I want you to look at the speakers that are going to be there. Nick Pope worked for the British Defense Ministry, studied UFOs. Number 2 speaker who they have listed. Oh, look at that. It's me. Who's their number 3 speaker? Hold your taters. Travis is going to be there. Who's after Travis? Mariah Mayer for Expedition Bigfoot. And I got to hit the big ones here. David Childress. And now, the ranch personnel. Thomas Winterton's going to speak there. Eric Bard's going to speak there. Caleb Bench is going to speak there. When I was contacted for this, I could not believe it, number one. Why? Because I'm a big fan of these guys. And they're putting me up there as a top tier speaker. I'm honored. They said I'm going to be speaking on Friday and Saturday of that weekend. One time it's like at 3 o'clock, and I'm speaking right before Travis. Any better than that? And then Saturday, that's another afternoon shot before it's either Travis or Eric. These are guys that are way smarter than me. So hopefully I can meet these guys, talk to them, learn something. But if there was one conference that I was going to go to, that's it. How do you get there? Fly into Salt Lake City Airport, really nice airport. 2-hour drive to Vernal, Vernal, Utah, Phenomecon. I told you it'd be worth it. I don't get excited about much. But I guarantee the 2 presentations I'm going to give are going to blow the socks off of you guys out there, because it's got to be good. Look who I'm up against. So, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. We will be back shortly. Remember, I have 600 videos on this channel about missing people. And yes, there are missing people out there in Utah. Be safe, be kind. Paulides out.